Yeah.
So you're the perfect person to talk about our favorite British roadsters.
Okay.
I do have a Morgan on the list.
Oh, good. I do too.
Good.
I had to, really.
All right, well, you start.
I
got a list of 5.
I've got a list of 5.
All right, so you start.
Yeah, okay.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Off the Record. You know, Off the Record, we talk about them all the time on this show. They help you get out of tickets. That's basically it. Off the Record is a service that connects you to a qualified attorney in a jurisdiction that you got a ticket in, right? So all you got to do is go to offtherecord.com/TST or download the Off the Record app and use code TSTPOD. That's TSTPOD. Then it's super, super easy, right? You just input some basic information, scan a photo or snap a photo of that ticket and include that along with a brief description of the incident. And Off the Record will set you up with an attorney who will fight that ticket on your behalf. You don't have to go to court. You don't have to really do anything. They handle it all. They have an amazing success rate. And if you don't get those points off your record, you don't have to pay off the record. It's really that easy. Those tickets, I know it's tempting to plead guilty and just get on with your life, but the fact is, they will follow you. Your insurance could go up. It could jeopardize your livelihood. It could cost you a lot more money down the road, and it's not good stuff. So, offtherecord.com/TST or code TSTPOD on the Off the Record app. That'll get you 10% off all your bookings with Off the Record indefinitely. The code is good forever. Make sure you've got it in your phone. Make sure you keep it handy. That way, if you get pulled over, you're good to go. All right, folks, today is a very special day. Jon Wells, the chief designer from Morgan, that quirky little company out of Malvern, England, is in studio hanging out with us. We're talking about the Super 3. We're talking about some of our favorite Morgan designs of all time, his incredibly interesting career, and also we make him play our top 5 British Roadsters game as our main topic. This was a really fun show, went really well, and I enjoyed our time with Jon Wells of Morgan on the Smoking Tire Podcast.
Jon Wells, let's go, brother.
Let's go.
Welcome to America.
Thank you for having me.
Do you spend much time here?
On and off, a few times. Not a lot of time. First time in LA, though.
Oh, okay.
First time driving in LA in the Super 3.
Enjoying it.
Some experience.
It's a good intro vehicle.
Yeah.
Your man, Jim, who was one of the techs at Morgan, came over, flew over, and same thing. Had never driven in LA and was like, "Do I have to worry about this? I've never driven in America, much less this city, and here I am driving a Super 3.
I had a 25-minute drive this morning. I got an air horn and 2 windows coming down. Yo, man, what's that?
Yeah. I mean, there's the thing about the Super 3 is like it's such a charming thing, and it looks like nothing else on the road that everybody wants to ask you about it.
Yeah, right.
That's a thing with Morgans. That's
Yeah.
same with the 4-wheeled Morgans too.
Yeah, that's right. And, even in Malvern, where we're building them, every time you go out, and just locally even, you still get waves and smiles.
Yeah.
And
a lot of Malvern pride.
Yeah. There's no pretentiousness with a Morgan. It's not an aggressive car, right? It's,
Well, that's the best
friendly.
thing about a Morgan.
Yeah.
I mean, the best thing about a Morgan is that you could drive something exotic, but you're not an asshole.
Yeah.
It's really like genuinely positive attention.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Like
It's like driving a puppy.
Yeah.
It's like everyone's just like, oh, hi. And then they're excited to see it. They don't think you're a shit.
Yeah. When
That's
we
right.
had the +4 last year, I've never in my life gotten more positive attention from women driving any car ever.
Oh, really?
Most people think there's this common thing where like, oh, you drive a Ferrari to meet girls or whatever, and like that's not how it works.
Well, I've never looked
all.
at it that way, although saying that,
Well, in America, that is a common misconception.
Okay.
Certainly. And if you really want to meet girls in a car, a Morgan
Right.
and a scarf is
And a
exactly
scarf.
what you
Yeah,
need.
that's a staple.
Yeah. How did you end up with the company?
So when did I join Morgan? 15 years ago.
Okay.
15 years ago. So I joined in the centenary of Morgan. So 2009, 100 years of the company.
Okay.
Straight out of university, first proper job.
Okay. And what is your education in?
So I studied vehicle design.
Okay. And where does one study that in the UK?
Well, in the UK at the time, there was only 2 courses really. Coventry, which is right in the Midlands, was the one. That was the world-renowned course.
Okay.
And then
where you went?
And I didn't go to that one. Yeah.
You really set that up.
So I ended up in the north of England, where the beer's better and the people are friendlier, so that's where I was, and I studied 4 years up there. And then,
what is the school? What is the
it was
university?
called Huddersfield University.
Okay,
yeah.
that sounds like some Harry Potter shit.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it was pretty rural, but no, it's good. I loved it. I was there for 4 years, and then in my 3rd year, I did a bit of work experience with TVR, and then with very briefly, it was like a live project.
Everything there seemed brief.
Yeah,
but the cars were always stunning.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right, and I enjoyed that a lot. I loved the small team mentality. Everyone had ownership. We met the designer when he came and spoke to the students.
TVR's like got to be like 12 people.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, even by
probably
Morgan
2 or 3 in the
standards.
design team there. But then, but my predecessor came to Huddersfield, and he was looking for somebody to just help him out. He was the first ever designer at Morgan. So in 100 years history, the first ever designer had been there 2 years before me.
Was the guy 90? How old is this guy?
So he was young. It's still a young
Did they
team
just
today.
not have a designer? What did they do?
No, so Peter Morgan, second
they didn't
generation.
have- so they didn't have
he
classic
drew a lot of
trained.
cars himself.
okay, so-
Charles Morgan,
Yeah.
who employed me,
Yeah.
he was
I met Charles. He was something.
some character.
He was
still
something,
is.
that
I
guy.
had lunch with him last week actually. So he was very creative. He really believed in the future of design at Morgan. And my predecessor Matt joined just 2 years before me, and he was tasked with imagining what a slightly more modern coupe Morgan might look like. So he was put in a corner to draw cars, sketch this coupe out. There was 2 or 3 engineers at the time, but that was the whole R&D team. Just
Was it still in like
less
the
than 5
trailer,
people.
like the little
in a shed
in
around
a
the
shed
back.
on the
That's
side?
right, that's
I
right.
was in the shed
Yeah,
once, and I
that's
was
it.
like, "This can't be
Little
real." This is
asbestos clad
so
roofs.
It was actually, it was crazy. There's like 10 chairs in there, and that's it.
Every winter, you'd have to put your computer off the floor because the
Unbelievable.
flood would come through the bottom.
It really was a shed. It was crazy.
Well, this is it. So Matt was sketching what became the Aeromax, which was a coupe we did. Really beautiful.
my
car.
favorite.
And because he was sort of sketching a lot in 2D, very conceptual sketches, they were then bending strips of wood to kind of replicate some of these forms and shapes, and then hand beating the aluminium on top of this to sort of create this first concept car, if you like, which is a really slow process.
Yeah.
And, the automotive design process is all about going through many different iterations until you're happy and then casting it in stone and going straight from sort of 2Ds
From like a sketch to a wooden
to like
buck.
a full
to
wooden
like-
buck.
Yeah.
Beautifully romantic, and
Yeah.
even the way the wood was bending was, you're almost constrained a little bit by what the wood can do. So you end up with quite a natural shape and form, and it was a magic way of making a car. And the car was shown and generated a lot of interest. And then we pre-sold 100 vehicles off the back of it.
Yeah.
But because the process was so slow, Matt was looking for somebody to bring in some 3D skill, digital modeling, CAD. Up until then, Morgan was posting its emails.
Stuff they
so
figured
it
out
was-
in the 90s, other places. Yeah.
You guys bought your first
Hadn't-
computer?
Hadn't quite made it to Malvern
Yeah,
yet.
that's it. I had to bring my own computer.
Must have own laptop.
So
That's like David Lee Roth got into Van Halen because he owned a PA.
Yeah.
That was it. Like he was like he was like, well, I'm not that good, but like I have speakers, and they're like, you're in. You're in.
and that was it. That was the score. So I landed there. I finished my studies. I based my major project on Morgan, and then I joined there fully in 2009.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty straight line.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty straight line. Do you find that to be an exceptional trajectory, or do you think that's the kind of thing that like someone who's listening and might want to design cars, like
Sure.
is that a reasonable thing to have happened?
I think I was very fortunate. I was very fortunate for sure. I mean, there's there's going to be 100 kids graduating
the
every
third
year.
designer in the history of the
In the
company.
history of the the second designer in the history of the company. Yeah. I was very fortunate. There's a lot of kids graduating every year, and it is hard to sort of find yourself in a studio. There's so few of them, especially in the UK nowadays. But I mean, that being said, I took the advice of my parents, who were teachers, and I pursued what I enjoyed doing.
So you were artistic as a kid, I assume?
Yeah, to be honest, truth be told, throughout school I probably wasn't certain of what I wanted to do for a profession, but I knew what I enjoyed doing. I loved to draw. I loved anything mechanical, mountain bikes and then later motorbikes. And then when I saw vehicle design pop up, the idea of drawing for a living and being around bikes actually in particular, it was motorbikes primarily for me. And then throughout studying, I found myself really enjoying sculpture, clay modelling, 3D surfacing, taking those 2D drawings and turning them into something you can spin around and touch and feel. And it was almost a natural progression. I just put myself on a path of what I enjoyed, and then I found my way.
And do you find that the integration of computers adds to that or takes away from the romance of the job? I mean, obviously, it adds to being able to actually build whatever it is you're drawing and share it around with the engineers, and it's much more efficient.
Yeah.
But is it less romantic?
No. I think everything's got a place in the process. And, it's interesting, actually. Some of the guys laugh at me and my team now. I'm the oldest one in the design team, pretty much.
Really?
So,
Nice.
Nowadays, there's 7 of us, and a lot of the guys nowadays will jump straight into 3D very, very early. I still like to put pen to paper a lot at the start, but a lot of the guys jump straight into 3D, and it is the go-to. And in fact, we've just announced a collaboration with Pininfarina, actually, and it's been amazing working with them. We've been on such an awesome journey. Their designers are visiting Morgan, and they're seeing first-hand interactions with craftsmen, and everything at Morgan is very applied design. Working with Pininfarina, they have these studios with mixed reality headsets.
No.
So it's not augmented reality and it's not virtual reality because you're seeing each other like you and I are seeing each other. But the model that you've got in 3D is sat right in front of you.
So you're just sitting around a table that's empty, but everyone else is seeing the model spinning, and that's kind
full
of
size.
Neat.
You're walking around this thing, and you're sort of.
This sounds like the Apple Vision Pro stuff that they're just starting
exactly.
doing.
So that's the sort of domestic level. And these professional outfits, we don't have anything like that at Morgan. We're just still bringing in our own computers. But to work like that and do all of these different iterations and see firsthand what the light is doing on the surface, and you can make quick changes and add a bit more tension or move something slightly and see it firsthand. Seeing that best practice, you can see the power of it. And in fact, this collaboration we're going to be announcing with Pininfarina a bit later on this year is the first model that I've not made a clay for. So it's the first time I've not physically made a clay. And to be honest, that is where it's heading. But like you say, I'm a little bit old school. I do like to have a model or, at least a 3D printed version or something.
But they must be able to go from the virtual to a 3D printer and at least have something physical, right?
Exactly.
At some point.
Exactly. Of course you can. Yeah.
Because you got to show it to someone who's not wearing the glasses somewhere down the road.
You can speak directly. What we like doing is, you make a 3D model and you can spin it around on a tablet. And you can go and show the guy that's going to be hand beating it. And he can say, it's cool, but I'm never going to get that sharp crease there. Can we change this a bit? And it just aids the dialogue, really. So that's our approach at Morgan, really. It's not about replacing some of the tradition with modern technology. It's about enabling the tradition to carry on by using modern technology.
Sure.
So we have 3D printers, and we'll make not production parts, but little jigs and fixtures that can speed up the hand making of a door. And it just keeps it alive for us. So.
One of the things that was so interesting about Morgan was I've been to a lot of car factories. It's by far my favorite car factory I've ever been to because it's totally different from everything else. The generations of people that are working there. I met multiple where it was like an entire family of people have grown up only ever working at Morgan, which was amazing. The smell of the wood, unbelievable. The fact that it just goes downhill. and they just push the cars. I mean, it's like
Do you know that wasn't always the case?
did it not always go downhill?
No, so
At some point, someone was like, "Hey guys,
hang on a minute.
I have an idea."
Was it uphill for a while?
That's the story. That's the story.
It used to go
no,
the
I
other
don't.
way. It
I
used to
don't know
go
how
up.
true. I don't know how true this
They
is.
hired their first engineer in 2004, and he's like,
Hang on a minute, guys.
you point it downhill.
Guys, turn them around. Turn the cars around. They go the other way now.
Now, this is the story I heard. I don't know how much truth there is in it, but there was a famous British industrialist called Sir Harvey Jones, and when you're driving a Morgan, there's a few in England anyway. There's a few things you often hear. Has it got a wooden chassis? Yeah. No, never had a wooden chassis. Is it a kit car? No, it's not a kit car. It's made by hand. And the third one, especially in the UK, is: did you see that Sir Harvey Jones troubleshooter documentary? And he was this famous industrialist that came in, and at the time in the UK when there was like 3 TV channels, everyone saw this thing. So it was a really famous documentary. And he famously came into the factory and spoke with Peter and Charles Morgan and gave them a load of advice about how to do things better so the company would exist. And they kind of said no. Famously, they kind of said, no, we're going to do it our way, thanks ever so much. And here we still are. But apparently, as it goes, the one thing he did suggest is, why don't you start the cars at the top of the factory and use gravity to roll them down rather than pushing them up? And after
Did it literally go the other way? It went
literally the other
uphill?
way, yeah. So after the cameras were off, they went, you know what, that was quite a good idea. We'll take that on board.
I wonder, does it still exist on YouTube? What's it called?
Troubleshooter, the documentary.
Troubleshooter
yeah, Sir Harvey
documentary.
Jones, I think.
Maybe
yeah.
it's still on YouTube. Maybe we can,
It's worth a
maybe we
watch.
can
It's
go
very-
watch it. Yeah.
not a lot's changed since then. Other than
So did that guy just like go around to different businesses and find efficiencies?
That's it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
right. Yeah,
Well,
that's right. That's
that
right.
sounds interesting,
Yeah. And
actually.
And here we are, 30 years later.
It's like, fuck you, get out of here. The downhill thing actually was quite smart.
But you know what? Nowadays, that is the name of the game. Making it more efficient. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's not economical to make things entirely by hand with highly
Sure.
trained technicians. So we've
But
got
I can't recommend it. Malvern's not really near a lot of stuff for people visiting England, but if you have the day to go out there, it is totally worth a visit because it's unbelievable. You can't believe that they're still making cars like this.
That's right, yeah.
And then their cars are pretty fun. The cars are good.
Yeah, I think 1914 the factory was built there.
Yeah.
Or started being used there, and then 1909 was when it was all founded.
And couple of those jigs have been there the whole time.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's like this guy was like, yes, this jig was installed here 1931. What? Kidding? It's crazy.
I'll tell you, I mean, the date changes depending on who you speak
Yeah.
to, but yeah, it was
just as far back as this guy can remember.
60, 70 years old.
Yeah.
And the story of that was there's a former we use to make the rear wheel arches, and the rear wheel arch in the wooden frame is laminate strips of plywood stuck together, and then they bend it and put it into this former. And every time we get a new apprentice or a celebrity visit, we get them to have a go, and they usually end up flicking off to the other side of the room. But yeah, they put it in this former, clamp it up, let it dry, and then it's used to panel beat the rear wheel arch onto. And then probably, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, we moved to having a superformed rear metal arch. And the first thing, us and the engineers wanted to do was design a perfectly concentric curve, the perfect mathematical curve, because that's what you instinctively do, especially if you're laying a £250,000 tool down. But that would have meant scrapping off this wheel arch for us. So sort of reluctantly, we scanned this thing, and now every Morgan has a slightly imperfect rear wheel arch panel.
Interesting. It's like a living
stories.
tool, though.
Yeah.
That's what's pretty cool about
Yeah,
it.
it's all sort of-
It's how do you go to the 21st century and also be making things the old way? And by
Yeah,
hand?
well, it's,
Folks, just a quick break from the action to let you know that there are less than 5 of our Notice Canyon orange dial watches remaining. You can still buy them. There's just a couple left. We really want these things to sell out. It's an amazing watch. You've heard Johnny talk about them on our show because he bought one, and me and Zach have been wearing them. They're just, everyone who puts them on loves them. And just taking this moment to let you know there's only a couple left. They will sell out very soon. So head over to Notice Watches website. That's NODUS. Order one for yourself because this is the last chance you're ever going to have. Now, back to the show.
it's that fusion of the two which we love. It's a delicate balance for us in design at Morgan because you want to embrace modern technology. You obviously have to use modern powertrains and the future of automotive, things like ADAS and lane departure systems.
I don't want any of that in a Morgan.
There's
Please
so many
do
of it,
not
and
sell that shit in a Morgan.
we still have to, we still have to comply. We still have to adopt this technology. but we still want to keep the tradition alive. And my philosophy for Morgan really is not to blend it with modern technology, so you end up with a bit of a pastiche, but to almost directly clash the two. So you've got modern architecture with modern BMW powertrains, modern technology, modern chassis, and on top of that, we've got this beautifully handcrafted wooden body with a aluminium body on top of that. And I like separating the two almost and just celebrating both for what they are.
I mean, I think since it's a small company designed for a pretty narrow, focused group of customers, I can't think of anybody who wants a Morgan with ADAS. Do you? I mean, can you think of a single customer that you've sold a car to that or that you were about to sell a car to goes, if this had lane departure warning, I'd be in. Yeah. But as it is, no. I can't think of anybody who wants those.
The reality is we are exempt from a lot of it.
Yeah, as you should be. There's no reason that Morgan should have to comply with that kind of shit.
But then, some things, there's some social perceptions for some of this technology that does change slightly. So, for example, for our model year 23 cars, we started to fit airbags. I mean, the Plus 6 is a fast car.
That's a really fast car.
And it's amazing. The requirement for airbags isn't a legislation thing. All you have to be able to do is absorb a certain amount of energy in the steering column. And Morgan have always passed that test. But there's a perception that having an airbag means the car's safer, when in fact we were still complying with the same test.
Sure.
But we did employ airbags just to help get around some of that.
For that car and for like the Aero Super Sports and stuff. I mean, at a certain price point, performance point, you go, okay, we should probably just do this.
So we kind of pick and mix. We kind of pick and mix.
Yeah. But at least we're at a point where you can make an airbag steering wheel that looks good.
Yeah.
At least it's not like, 1994.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have to put some hideous, I think
rubber impact.
Actually, my good friend has a Plus 8 from like the early middle 90s.
Oh, cool.
In Connecticut, in America. Yeah, okay. And it's got that like awful like Rover, early airbag awful Rover V8 and awful Rover steering wheel with the airbag. It's not great.
Not pretty,
and actually he was asking me like, should I take this airbag like out? I'm like, I think you probably should. It's hideous. And for a Gen 1 airbag is probably more dangerous than no airbag, honestly.
Do you know what? Sometimes the challenge is fun though. When you get one of these new challenges, we did an electric vehicle prototype in 2014 called the.
Oh, so that's actually, sorry to interrupt, but that's actually not as bad. That's the 2012 one. That's the same steering wheel that my Aston Vanquish uses.
That's right.
And Roof used it in all their Porsches.
That's it.
I'm talking about the 4-spoke one.
Because this is better than this one.
That's the Lotus steering wheel. So that's the Lotus wheel.
That's a Lotus armature.
Yeah, and that one, it's okay. It's tough to make it work, but there was a 4-spoke one from the 90s that was really, really bad.
Yeah, there's been a few over the years for sure.
Yeah, it might have even just been done in some sort of like, there it is, that's the one, down, that's it.
There you
in
go.
fact, that's the same steering wheel that my Bentley has. It's exactly the same. It's awful. But it looks bad in the Bentley, but it looks worse in this.
Yeah, that's not great.
That doesn't work at all.
Great.
Yeah. So at least we can now make a good-looking airbag.
That's
wheel.
right. And that's why designers exist at Morgan, really. That's the other question you get. When you say I'm a designer at Morgan, they're like, you must be great with a photocopier, right? What do you do every day? But the reality is, whether it's a steering wheel or whether it's a gear knob or any of the features we do, everything's a sketch and a model and a prototype, and then handing over to the engineers. And there's a lot of continued development. And
even if you've got quote parts bin stuff, you've got to figure out which bin, where's the stuff coming from.
Exactly. And you see a car from 2024 versus one from even 5 years ago. They're night and day different. In all the 1%.
Yeah.
In all the 1%.
To a trained eye. Yes.
To a trained eye.
We drove the 2023 Plus 4 all over LA. And people, what year is that? They don't know. Nobody knows. And that's what's kind of cool is that you can buy a brand new car that looks like it could have come from any time in the last 40 years, and that's pretty rad.
Yeah.
This is the Aeros. The Aero range is my fucking jam.
Nuts, right?
And we can circle back to that. That is mine. So what was the first project that you worked on?
So I helped with the latter stages of Aeromax. So the coupe, and then thereafter that, Matt and I did the Aero Super Sports, which was the Targa, and a coupe. And then we did the first gen first gen new three-wheeler. Again,
Okay.
With the V-twin, the S&S V-twin.
Okay.
So we did those together. And then we also did a hydrogen fuel cell concept car called the Life Car together, which is pretty wild. That's still in our studio now, actually.
I'm sure there was a lot of demand for that one.
Yeah, it was a head turner.
Is there any hydrogen infrastructure in the UK at all?
No,
because it's barely here.
I mean, this was 2009, so
Yeah,
this
so
was
it's
kind
really
of quite forward facing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was nothing at the time, but it was a nice styling study for us.
Mm-hmm.
So we did the Life Car together. That was that concept. And then after that, we did a big overhaul of, well, since Matt left, things I've looked after. We did a Series 5 Aero, so the return to the convertible.
Mm-hmm.
We did the new Super 3, obviously, the most recent one. The CX generation four-wheelers, that's the Plus 4 and the Plus 6 with all new chassis, all new interiors. A few concept vehicles in the background that we've worked on as well. The CXT, which was our Dakar Overland.
Oh, yeah.
See, that's
monster. Yeah.
There must be customer demand for that.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Can you?
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a lot.
is that something you guys can just build? I mean,
We did 8 cars.
That doesn't seem like enough.
And they were all
Yeah.
pre-sold before they started.
I mean,
still today.
I mean, that is fan-fucking-tastic.
Still today, we get constant requests. Can we
That's
build another one?
got to be top 5 cars the last 5 years that I want to drive and have not gotten a go at.
You should.
Where does it?
You should.
Do you still have one?
We do. We've got one that's the mule vehicle, the one we had for initial shakedown, which is awesome. I'm desperately trying to convince the company to sell it for me.
So
for
they
a
only
month.
made 8.
Yeah, so we made 8 plus this mule vehicle.
Was that
Yeah.
was that what demand was, or the company just said, we only have resources
To be
for
honest,
8?
It was totally uncharted territory for us.
Okay.
We had no idea whether there would be interest or demand or how it would be received. And to be honest, each one was quite meticulously set up. It had
really?
Sort of full shields front to back underneath, all bespoke suspension based on a Plus 6, but all bespoke reinforced suspension. EXTC dampers in each corner. It had an electronic differential from BMW to give us diff locks and things to get out of the mud. The bespoke roll cage. There was a lot of fabrication in every car. So
But I feel like even if it cost all the money in the world,
Yeah.
I feel like there's more than 8 people globally who want to buy that.
yeah, well, that's what we've seen.
I mean, look at the picture of it in action. I mean, that's just everything about that is right and good.
Awesome.
Everything.
Thank you. No, I love that. It
And now
was
that
such
we
fun.
know, thanks to Porsche, thanks to Lamborghini,
Yeah.
off-road sports cars are in.
Yeah, there you go. I think Morgan were trailblazing a little bit there. Pre the sort of Porsche Dakar and
Oh, the
everything.
wheel with the
and-
tires on the back too.
And this has a lot of aerial nomad energy, but I spent
it, yeah.
6 days in one of those, and I would have loved to have more of a roof and panels. Like, this is still an open kind of experience, but that was really breezy.
Yeah.
So this is a little bit
Like
better.
if Peking to Paris had a sort of modern, they should have a modern class, I think.
Yeah, they
I mean,
should.
I think I understand the spirit of that event, but at the same time, I feel like there's an opportunity for a modern class where you could bring a Dakar or an 80s or 90s Porsche Safari or one of these.
Wow.
Why not, right?
Interesting you say that.
The
So-
infrastructure is there.
Yeah, we had a good friend of the company commission 2 vintage Plus 8s, 19 sort of 80s, late 70s, 80s Plus 8s, to do the East African Safari, inspired by a lot of this.
Really?
And the idea is for this chap to continue evolving that project and do a Peking to Paris.
Has
and
he done
things
it?
With something. He's just finished an East African Safari. Yeah.
Can you find a picture of that?
So if you can find it,
Morgan
yeah, it's a
plus
plus 8, plus 8,
East
yeah.
African Safari.
That's
but
it.
like a company that's like agile like Morgan, like I feel like you could just build and sell a few more of those.
well,
And
that's there you go. There you go. That's the one there.
oh
That's the one.
yes, look at that.
So
This-
no. I mean, I
That
can't,
the one with that one, right?
I can't say it did particularly well, but in a field of 911s made by Tut Hills and a load of old Datsuns and things, it really stood out.
There is something to be said for style. Style points. Oh, look at on the bottom picture, Zach, down there. Look
That's
at it.
it.
Look at
There
it
you go.
mobbing. Right, one to the right. Yes. Oh, I mean, that's like shot of the year
So
right there.
much
Look
so
at that.
And it was father and son, and they just
That's awesome.
everything that could have broke on the
Yeah.
car, but they had so much fun. They sat on the line with the commentators. They're like, how do you fancy your chances? They're like, we don't, But when everyone else is, stuck in the water, at least we'll float with all the wood in the body. They fully embrace the spirit of Morgan.
That's
what it's
so
about for
rad.
Morgan. It's just about having experiences.
If I come to the UK, can I have a go in the mule car, you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
I
you
would
should
really-
do.
that would be
You've
worth
got
a
it.
trip.
You've got it. The first shakedown We had no idea how this thing was going to go. We partnered with Rally Raid UK, who were a Dakar outfit. Never won a Dakar, but they've never not got a car across the line. You know, they're a good team. And so they built this first car. We went to this quarry in North Wales for a shakedown, and we had no idea what we were going to expect with this mule car. And so I sat in the passenger seat next to this Dakar pro driver who took me out. And I'm not a nervous passenger, but I'm just like, just sweating. Like, geez, man, I got kids. Come on, you got just slow down a bit. And he jumped off this, you know, it was near sheer cliff. He just jumped off it. We're barreling down the side of this cliff. And at the bottom, there was a boulder. It was like 2 feet across. And I'm like, well, that was fun while it lasted. Never mind. And just smash and carries on going again. I couldn't believe I was in a Morgan.
That's awesome.
You know? But it was so exciting.
Yeah.
But
that's so cool. That's the coolest car you maybe have ever. It's not on my list of top 5 British Roadsters, but I need to revise.
It's got a roof, so I'm not sure it's a Roadster.
That's true. It is a fixed roof.
It's a fixed head, yeah, exactly.
God, that's the coolest stuff.
I mean, you talk about, you know, photocopying Morgans and them not looking different.
Yeah.
That's actually how this project came about a little bit. So when we did the new, every Morgan today has a bonded and riveted aluminium tub, you know, really modern chassis underneath. Prior to that, they had a steel ladder frame. And when we did the new chassis, it was called the CX generation, 100 years of Morgan or something, 110 years of Morgan. Our challenge was, how do we communicate visually this car's got something different underneath it? So just for fun, and it really was just for fun.
There we go.
We kind of thought,
That's
there you go.
You
can see the comparison there.
Yeah.
Morgan.
So it is so different.
It's so different. And back in the early century, you know, a lot of British manufacturers would do this thing called trialing, where they bounce their car up a rutted lane. You know, they'd be hanging off the side to get traction. Yeah,
like Austin Sevens and stuff like that.
Just to prove the durability of the platform, really.
Yeah.
So we kind of thought, you know, what would a modern day trialer look like? So you had CXT. So we sketched out this crazy overland Dakar thing. We stuck it on a wall, and then Invest Industrial, who were the firm that, you know, invest in Morgan, they came round on a VIP visit, and they walked into the studio, and one of the friends of the investors pointed at this thing on the wall and said, "You got to build that." And then the next Saturday, we were sat with Rally Raid, like, how are we going to do it then? There was no focus group. There was no, you know.
Well, that's how the best products are made.
Exactly. You know, and
do you guys frequently bring in a specialty team like you did for the CXT? You go, okay, we don't have experience building an off-road vehicle. Yeah. Do you do that with any other special editions?
Yeah, we do. Okay. I mean, you know, collaboration's the name of the game. When you're in the niche vehicle world and you're such a small team, I mean, when I started, there was 2 designers and 4 engineers, but today there's probably 17 engineers and there's 6 or 7 in my team. So, you know, we're still very, very small. So collaboration's everything. We'll work with the panel guys on the forming of the panels. We work very closely with BMW. And it's all about collaboration, really, to get to where we need to be. And that's something we embrace.
Yeah. So. Let's talk about Super 3 for a minute. Zach and I made a film with the Super 3, actually with the one that you're driving today, the yellow and white.
Oh, yeah.
We drove it last week or 2 weeks ago. And it may go up the week that this show goes up.
I think it goes up next week.
We should time that fortuitously for maximum engagement. I loved the 2012, the V-Twin 3.
Yeah.
I thought it was one of the greatest. It's either people say it's either the best worst car in the world or the worst best car in the world.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. It's a totally unique experience, unlike anything else. With the Super 3, you've now got a car engine and no more motorcycle engine, which is better, but maybe not. So what was the discussion like inside of Morgan of how do we make this thing better while still making it, you know, the 3-wheeler that people want?
Yeah. Well, we're right there with the engine. That's where it all started.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, first of all, the first question was, do we continue with the 3-wheeler? Do we do another 3-wheeler? But it's become almost a bit of a brand anchor for us, you know, especially younger buyers. You know, their entry point to Morgan is the 3-wheeler.
Yeah.
And
the other cars are quite expensive.
Right. And it's also a global product for us. It's the only vehicle up until very soon, hopefully. It's the only vehicle currently we can ship into the US, for example, because over here it's considered to be a motorcycle, so some of the crash regulation and things are a bit different. So it made sense for us to do it. And the first thing we did is look for a new engine, and naturally straight to the bike market. So there's a couple of Italian twins like Guzzi and stuff. There's obviously a lot of British manufacturers. We've got Norton, Triumph,
Diavel motor would be
right. And our owners did a lot of work with Ducati before us, so we had a conversation with those guys. And we looked at the UK manufacturers too, Triumph, Norton, people like that. The problem is with a modern bike engine is they're all water-cooled. They're all they've all got integrated gearboxes, which are sequential. So it was quite unique with the S&S Twin. We were able to pair it to a car gearbox, but most modern bike lumps have gearboxes so integrated into them to splice in a reverse gear to educate car drivers about sequential driving, which I'm sure many could do, but it's still when you jump in for a hire or an experience, it's a whole different mindset and the cost, and so that pretty quickly wrote off any.
Did anyone ever bring up in a meeting, and I'm just curious because I've thought about this, the use of the motorcycle sequential gearbox with some type of electric reverse?
Right, yeah, they did.
I've thought about this a million times,
like
where you just hit a button and it's reversed.
I mean, a lot of the big bikes have them now,
Our manager has a BMW
big GS
gigantic fucking Nazi tourer
that
has an electric reverse in it. It's like, it's pretty crazy stuff.
Right,
So did that ever come up in a meeting?
Yeah, that was talked about too. And, again, you've got safety cases and weight and complexity and the investment just... When you're building a handful of cars a year, a couple hundred cars a year, you've just got to amortize that development on something. And it wasn't making a lot of sense. But interestingly, Morgan started with car engines. Well, didn't start with car engines, but they had car engines in the three-wheelers in the early century, Ford engines in particular.
Yeah, from the 30s to the 50s, right?
And there was a car called an F Super, which was a Ford engine, and it was called a Super. So Super's not a new name for us in our sort of bloodline.
By the way, can I just back up and dig myself out of a hole? Referring to Vinny's BMW bike as a Nazi tourer.
I was wondering about that.
The reason this bike
might need a bleep.
This bike is
does it tour the Nazis?
Seriously, it looks like a World War II era styled bike. It's got this like Berlin stuff all over it.
Wow.
It's got a real. Let's call it period accurate styling face. I'm not meaning to make any political implications about BMW or their employees or the people who ride them. But when he pulled up with this thing, I was like,
it's their version of like the
I believe it's the
Harley.
B18. I think it's called the B18. And it has an 1800cc horizontal twin that sticks out about a meter, and it weighs 900 pounds.
Yeah, well, we looked at BMW engine. The Boxer on the front, you can picture it. This
would have probably been the motor.
It would have been cool.
It's enormous, and actually, it would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been really cool.
Please, come on, don't throw me under the bus.
In the comments.
I was trying to make a little joke there. Just dig myself out of the hole. So anyway, look at this thing.
Jeez, look at the size.
It's enormous.
It's very big.
R18B. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it's got a helicopter engine.
I'd love to have a go on it. It looks.
he really likes it. He thinks it's great, but
eating miles.
But it's got this. It's very German.
So I mean that's where that's where it started for us. We looked at this engine. It was started with the engine. So we thought, we've got a great history working with Ford. A lot of our cars are Ford engined. Originally, there's a good story to tell there. What do Ford do that's naturally aspirated? That was important for us. We didn't want some sort of big turbo coming, especially on a three-wheeler with a big
lack of rear traction.
Exactly. We wanted something quite linear, quite mechanical, and then we discovered this little three-cylinder Dragon engine. 1500cc.
I don't think it's used in anything in America right now.
Probably not. No, probably not. Like the Fiesta ST and stuff has it, I think.
No,
in the UK, in Europe.
We had turbo motors.
Turboed, actually.
Yeah, we had turbo motors, and they were four-cylinder.
Yeah, sure. So we got the car, we drove it, and we liked it. A lot of the power comes on very late. It's nice and revvy. It's got like that, half 911 sound. That sort of half a six sort of sound to it. Sounded good, nice and throaty, lots of fun power if you go hunting for it, and that's what you want to do in a Morgan, work through the gears to find it. And so we just liked it. And then the next challenge was, what do you do with the aesthetic? How do you haven't got this big jewel on the front.
Yeah.
And, truth be told, that big S&S twin on the front of the old car was doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of visual appeal.
How it looked.
You know,
Yeah.
How it looked was everything.
You didn't have to design a snout.
No, exactly.
You just
exactly.
put the thing there.
Exactly. So, and that's what we didn't want to do. We didn't want a car engine over the front of the car with a big faired-off snout. And there are other three-wheelers that do that. Things like the Vanderbilt.
Why was it not possible to evolve the S&S motor? Was it just...
Well, to be honest, it's emissions. That's a big part of it. Big capacity 2-litre twin, air-cooled. You know, just getting through the next round of Euro emissions was a real challenge.
Okay.
And towards the end of its life, S&S, I believe, were only building that engine for Morgan. You know, they went into modifications and aftermarket world because...
And didn't the three-wheeler lose some power over its life as
well?
well?
So
the early cars are actually more powerful than the later ones.
Had some big snorkels on the front around the nose, which looked like a big mustache, which are quite funny. But they lost a bit of that character as well. It just became so hard, and the price as well of buying the engines too. So that's what killed it really, emissions on the old twin. And then we got this new Ford engine, which is not designed to be seen. You know, it's not a pretty thing.
You've made the bonnet particularly hard to get off. Just like don't.
But it is small. You know, this is so small. It's like the size of an A4 piece of paper.
Yeah,
it's tiny.
It's small and it's behind the front axle, which does change the distribution of the weight.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this is the design of Super 3. It started with that engine. We didn't want to put it over the front. Proportionally, it would start looking like a handheld vacuum cleaner. We wanted it to be behind the wheels, so it looked like it was being towed by its front wheels, like a horse and cart kind of thing, you know, chariot of fire. But also dynamically, that's where you want the weight on a three-wheeler. So it doesn't sit under the bonnet, we would say. It sits under the nose cone. You know, it's right tucked up there behind the front wheels. And then the challenge was, right, so how do we dress this thing? We explored cowling it off, but that was a bit disingenuous, you know, with extra panels for the sake of it, and Morgan design tends to be quite honest, you know. On a four-wheeler, our front wing is the wheel arch. It's also the step plate. It's, you know, everything's got many jobs. So we thought, right, let's clad this thing with its engine mounts. And then we thought, hang on a minute, these engine mounts can also be the front corner pickups. So they were holding all the suspension. And then if we, you know, sculpt and dress these a little bit, they can also duct air into the two intakes for the radiators, you know, which kind of looks like a jet. And so all of a sudden, we've got these three components, these aluminium castings, doing all of these different jobs. Holding the corners, holding the engine, guiding the air in. And so they also needed to be very, very thin because we couldn't add width because then we'd push the radiators out and then we'd compromise the turning circle. So, or we'd have to get wider in the car. So we ended up with these two very thin, complex castings. And then we just anodize them and stick them straight to the car. So it's a bit like a motorcycle. The aesthetic is the frame. It is the engine. That is the bit that's the bit that you behold. And you don't have to be an engineer to look at Super 3, and within a few minutes you find yourself naturally working out what everything does and how it all connects. And it's such an honest, technical aesthetic that, you know, that got us excited.
One of the sort of more like, I mean, maybe we can call it controversial. If I'm honest, it's my least favorite design element of the Super 3 is those panels that you mount, the blades that you mount the rack to, that you can mount bags and such, saddle bags to. Yeah. I'm sure they do serve a purpose. I'm sure they help you carry more things. There's a good picture of it. But I think... I mean, and I know they do have that purpose in the front, like you've mentioned, where the pass-through for the radiator. Yeah. But did you go back and forth about
we did.
How bad do we really need these things?
A lot of focus for us, really. And I mean, the story was a bit like the front castings. The aesthetic was kind of drawn really from the technical requirements, and we ended up with such an honesty about it, such a sort of primal, basic rectangular shape that it was that honest, and it was that intended that we ended up embracing it. So ultimately, we had the radiators on the side, which are obviously vertical, square, rectangular forms. And had we put a lot of shape into the side panels, they would have been coming outboard even further than the radiators, which then would compromise your turning circles. You'd have to grow the wheels. And it's already quite a wide car, you know. It's, well, not by US standards, but in the UK, it's wide for our little roads. And so they wanted to be vertical. So then we're like, right, what else can we do with this? Let's manage a lot of the air. Let's use it to extract the air out the radiators over the top, almost make like this aqueduct effect above the top that sort of draws air through. And then what else can we do with it? Three-wheelers, they're used for maybe three different things. One is just the look and feel of eccentricity of driving a three-wheeled car. The second is a lot of guys love the classic nature of Morgan, and they go touring and adventuring in these cars. And there's a lot of makeshift ways of strapping luggage and stuff to it. So we started looking at like the adventure bike market, and we thought, you know what, and the classic Dakar and things, and how can we use these panels to hold accessories and luggage, which is then kind of what we lent into. And then we realised that if we do make these perfectly square, we can just tool up one body side.
Sure.
And we can flip it over and use it on both sides of the car.
There you go.
So we've just saved a six-figure investment on the panel.
Yeah.
So, which again enables us to make a car like this at the price we do. So it all just started stacking up, really. And anything we did beyond that would have been for styling's sake. And that's not really our philosophy.
And then are you sharing the measurements of that with luggage manufacturers and other partners who can then make a variety of sort of accessories?
Yeah, exactly.
I understand the purpose.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who has a Super 3 who bought one.
Yeah.
He's actually an automotive journalist.
Yeah.
Here in LA, and he bought one. He loves it.
Yeah.
And he has a few different things that fit there. And he assures me that it is useful. And I wouldn't personally buy a Super 3 to go on a road trip. That's not what I would do with this particular vehicle, but I get it.
Yeah.
But I wonder what the inside battle was of to put these things on versus to not put them on.
I mean, there was a lot. There was a lot of discussion. There was a few conversations like that. We had a meeting, during the development. We had a meeting, and the title of the meeting was, "Where do we put the wood?" And
there's got to be some.
Because there's got to be some, right? It's a Morgan. And after about 20 minutes, we closed the meeting because there was no place for it. Wood.
Are those side things made of wood?
No, they're not. Okay. Wood has a place in Morgan. It is the tool that dictates the form of the four-wheelers. You shape the wood, and then the panel follows that shape. It's really good for like noise, vibration, and harshness because it's a really good damper. It's obviously very sustainable. It's very lightweight. It's good at absorbing energy. All these reasons, which is why we still coach build like we do. But on Super 3, it's our first monocoque. It's the first time where the body side is actually the structure of the vehicle. So the wood at that point had no purpose, and so we didn't use it. And it's that quite honest engineering which sort of has led the design a lot of Super 3.
Do you think the Carpenters Union is like freaking out right now? Like they've figured out
What do we do?
They've figured out they don't need us.
But Greenpeace is very happy. I like the side pods. I think they remind me very much of like a Star Wars pod or something like that.
Yeah,
so
pod racer.
It's like a pod racer thing, which those have always had like there's the organic shape in the middle, but then the ends are just like these wings. And I think it kind of works. I'd be curious to see what it would look like without them, but then you'd have exposed radiators.
You've got a good eye. We had a pod racer on the mood board.
I think it's kind of cool.
So yeah, a lot of fun really. We've had a lot of fun with that. It was all during the pandemic. We're all sort of locked away, imagining what this sort of crazy spaceship can be. And that's the last major project that I worked on that's in public domain at the moment. And I
hope the Plus 6 makes it here because everyone who's driven one in Europe is like, "Oh, this thing is batshit."
Yeah.
And I liked the Plus 4. I thought the Plus 4, the last Plus 4, was a lot of fun. We enjoyed driving that.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's the Plus 6 right there. It looks aggressive. That's whoever built that one. That's the right wheel choice too that we're looking at there.
Yeah, there are wheels, like an 18-inch
Good.
sort of Dunlop-inspired pepper pot.
Yeah, that is the right ratio of wheel and tire to wheel gap to fender arch and all that kind of stuff. That's a BMW 335 engine, right?
Watch this. That's right. Yeah,
turbo BMW engine.
B58 inline 6. Yeah.
Fast.
Yeah.
Steph Papadakis get in there, 600 horsepower, killing it.
I mean, of course, the cars only weigh 1,100 kilograms as well. They weigh nothing. I don't know what that is in pounds. You'll have to do the maths for me.
It's like 2,400. It's not. It's nothing.
Nothing.
It's
right?
like it's nothing. Yeah.
So they're
I
a British
really
muscle
want to
car,
have a
really,
go
the
in
Plus
that.
6.
That's excellent. That's the right wheel.
Watch this space on the Plus 6. We've got some new announcements over the coming years in Plus 6, and something we've really obsessed about is that wheel tire arch fitment because just to get it to look
perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's something that.
Well, to most people that are not experts, that's the only way that you can tell that your Morgan was built this century.
Exactly, yeah, because they weren't 2 inches to one side or the other, and
exactly.
Our tolerances in the factory used to be plus or minus about 40 millimeters.
Look at this! You've got the Lotus steering wheel, and you've got that BMW Space Razor shifter.
There you go. There's a cup holder there as well. Morgan's first ever cup holder.
Is that your first ever cup holder?
Only came, and that's one of my biggest successes in life.
Is getting a cup holder into
a Morgan. There's just nowhere forward.
That fight must have been really fun. We don't do that here.
Yeah. Where's the wood? What about the cup holder?
I mean, it's still an incredibly compromised cup holder.
It is. But it would be not, if you go, listen, we're going to make the cup holder out of wood.
Yeah.
This is it forever. Yeah. There's going to be a cup holder guy.
That's a good idea. That could have been the wood in the Super 3.
Could have
That's where we did.
It could have. Right? You retrofit.
We actually
just one of those the ones that tacks on like the NSX has. It like slides into a slot and now you have a cup holder.
That's what that does.
It does?
It pops in with like a seatbelt buckle mechanism underneath the seat. But on Super 3, it's in the back of the luggage. So to have a cup holder on Super 3, you've got to buy the accessory rails and then the pannier, and then you can put your flask in the pannier. So it makes it the world's most...
it goes on the outside
of the car, yeah. So it's like the world's most expensive cup holder.
We should do a list of the worst cup holder designs ever.
The
Acura NSX, the one that they just stopped making, is extreme levels of garbage. It's a double cup holder, and you snap it into the side of the center tunnel on the passenger side.
Right, yeah.
And if it's in, your passenger cannot have legs. No, that's the one in my NSX.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
my old NSX has this little one that like flips down. Actually, this one, it takes up it's where your passenger's thigh goes.
It's quite sizable.
It's so big.
Look
at that picture. Yeah, that picture shows how much.
Yeah, we just couldn't fit that in with us. You can barely fit your legs in.
You can't fit a human there when you've got that thing installed. It's so dumb.
It's between your legs on ours. So the testing process was quite good fun on that one.
Your legs?
Quite painful actually. The early testing prototypes.
I like between your legs. Between your legs is good.
That's
where McLaren does a cell phone pocket.
That's it. Yeah,
they put it right in the front of the seat
and
there.
That was the theory.
I really like that design.
Got it just between your legs on the four-wheelers. I'm sure there's a picture on it somewhere. We're very proud of it.
That's fantastic.
It's up there on the
It's not in the new features section. They haven't highlighted it. Finally, get your web guy. Go, hey man, I worked hard on
Put
this.
everything into this cup holder.
Should we talk about British Roadsters in general?
Yes.
I think we should.
I found some. So I have a list now.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, is that it right there?
There you go. There's the cup
my
holder.
God, look at that.
Look how beautiful it is.
Amazing. It is quite nice. Oh, so that just clicks right in?
Just clicks in on this totally
and
flat.
It's basically a two-dimensional.
That's it, two-dimensional. And then the floor is the base.
The floor is the base.
And we've not yet released it, but we do have a US version as well with a slightly bigger diameter.
So
big gulp size.
And it seems like in a pinch, you could take it out, dip it in soap water, and then blow bubbles like to entertain your kid. Or while you drive along. I mean, I'm trying to describe for people listening.
That's what the Throttle House would do in their video, probably. That's very funny.
Yeah.
So it's just a big circle. When I get home.
No,
what did you talk about with Matt?
It's so clever.
It was
the
cup holder for half an hour.
The best cup holder of all time is the early G-Wagon cup holders. Have you seen that one?
No.
The basketball net?
No, I've not seen it.
Imagine the ring like you've got.
With a net.
But then there's a net.
I can picture it.
That goes out, and it's rather than the floor, it's this. Look at this. This is so great. Best design ever. Oh wait, where have you ended up?
So it can fold into the dash. I had a 3 Series BMW with a E46 with the same sort of drop down.
It was so genius, and then the net would just hold your beverage.
Yeah, cool.
I actually retrofitted one of those into my old Mustang. It was such a good design. I literally drilled that into my dashboard.
There's the Mark II.
And it was genius.
It's also in the way of your leg though.
But you could have you could put a net. You could put a net on yours.
We might. Yeah, a leather strap maybe or something. A bit Morgan.
Yeah, you like a cross, like a Viking strap. Perfect. All right. Well, Morgan, maker of British Roadsters for 120 years or whatever it was. Yeah. So you're the perfect person to talk about our favorite British Roadsters.
Okay.
I do have a Morgan on the list.
Oh, good. I do too.
Good.
I had to, really.
All right. Well, you start.
I got
a list of 5.
I've got a list of 5.
All right. So you start.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go through them. There's definitely a Morgan on there. All right. Because first of all, I've drawn my list from, there's some classics in there, as you might expect, but there's also 2 modern cars in there, including the Morgan, because it's important to note that the Morgan is a modern car, right?
Sure.
Okay, so first one for me is the Morgan 4.4.
Okay.
And that was, we don't make it anymore, but that was the longest running continuation production car in the world ever. 80 years of the Morgan 4.4.
Was it really?
So in continuous production.
Longer than the
without any
Beetle.
brakes. Yeah, in continuous production. So the Morgan 4.4, 80 odd years. I mean, I'm going to get fact
And that
checked
was
now.
a +4, but a 4-seater.
No,
right?
so that was the +4 came out in the 1950s. So this was 1936. The first Morgan 4.4.
It's 4/4, Zach.
That's right. And it was 4 wheels, 4 cylinders. That's how it came about. Very original. And it was the latest. I mean, there's actually a picture of myself and my now wife.
Is that you? Oh, yeah, look at that.
We met in this car. All right.
Oh, there you
so
go. What did I say? You want to meet girls.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go. And she looks lovely and happy in that photo.
Exactly.
So there you go.
That's how we first met. But for me, the 4.4 was kind of, represented the fun of driving of a Morgan four-wheeler. And there's this faster cars, the +4s, a much better car nowadays, dynamically. But what I loved about the 4.4 is it was the narrowest body car we ever did. It was 790 kilograms, skinny tyres, steel ladder frame, sliding pillar suspension, the little 1600 Sigma engine from Ford, I think was designed by Yamaha, and it was like naturally really chase through the revs, and you just had to work this thing so hard. It would never go around a corner, but you'd have so much fun trying to make it go around a corner.
like a Morgan Caterham.
Yeah, it was
I feel like
just
the +4 does
so.
that now, the newer one. It's a little weird in the corners,
Yeah.
but it's fun to drive.
And you're sat right in the back axle. You
Yep.
feel every bump. You really do drive by the seat of your pants.
Is
And
that one yours?
It's not. No. And again, it's in a car I'd love to own. I would love to own it, but for me, that, like I say, there's a lot better Morgans, but that for me sort of represents the heart of Morgan. Really, just nothing but fun to drive. Little handmade body, sweet, cute little face. It was just, of the British Roadster, I think it's hard for a Morgan not to be on that list.
Yeah.
Forgiving my bias.
The
Obviously.
funny thing about the best Morgan is it's not necessarily the best Morgan.
Yeah.
Right? Some
Yeah.
cars, some companies, like, there's charm in what they lack.
Yeah. Yeah, quite.
I wouldn't want a Morgan to be perfect.
No.
And if it was, it would be disappointing.
And there's nothing there you didn't need to be there. And just for a fun weekend or a little blast out, just to sort of forget the world, I love the 4.4. That for me was going to be, top on the list, really.
All right.
And I think another classic. That
We're gonna go around.
Should we take in turns?
Yeah,
or
we're
do you
taking
want-
turns.
you're taking turns.
We're taking
Okay,
turns.
That's my first.
That's okay.
Yeah.
No worries. I didn't explain the rules. My and this is in order of the ones just in order of what I thought of them. They're not ranked. E-Type, early E-Type, very obvious.
Yeah.
Yes, quintessential
Perfect.
British Roadster.
Beautiful.
Archetype of many Roadsters since.
Yeah.
Looks great. Variety of engines. Motorsport pedigree. You can have very expensive ones. You can have very affordable ones. They made a lot of them.
Yeah.
So you could find one at basically any price point.
Yeah.
I like the 6-cylinder cars. I'm not a big fan of the 12s, but even though that's the one Zach's got, I even like the coupes. As long as not the 2+2, but the 2-seater coupes, and even Enzo Ferrari that hated everything, he liked them.
Yeah.
So you gotta.
Well, who doesn't? Just
Who doesn't
a
like an
beautiful car?
E-Type?
It's just.
You ever drive one?
No, I never have driven one. I would love to.
They drive like they look. They're long and skinny.
Yeah.
And you sit on the floor.
Yeah.
Your feet go straight out.
Never-ending bonnet.
Yeah. But they're cool. They sound amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So, in a moment of possible sacrilege, I actually think the Eagle E-Type looks a little better.
The low drag's
It
quite
does.
cool.
I like the low drag
fixed
because
head,
to me the profile of the E-Type is so shapely, but the more I see them, especially from a profile, I'm like, man, this hood really is just. I think it's too long.
Well, when you take away the chrome
look at
bumpers,
that, look at the
Flames
tail
are
on
not, but I
that.
think
you gotta take all the chrome bumpers off, and then you go motorsport, and then you're good.
But I think where is this?
like
one?
Adrian
This thing
Newey's
with
like
this top
cheater
top.
Goodwood E-Type. Have you seen that one?
Right. Well, so Adrian Newey's is kind of like this because it's a little bit. He changed some
still-
things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And that's why it's a cheater car a little bit. So I think they just got the proportions a little bit more,
It's a
little
great
better.
shout. Yeah, I saw these being built a few
yeah.
weeks ago. Actually, still entirely coach built. Handmade aluminium.
They
are beautiful.
Yeah, they fixed
Where are they
a
built
little
these?
little things.
I mean, I know in England, but where in England?
Well, they do certainly do some of it in Coventry. No, not too far from Morgan, actually.
Cool.
I'm not sure where the HQ is though.
All right.
But, yeah.
Next.
Well, my second car is also a Jaguar, but I'm going to say the XK120. So
Fastest car in the world at one
fastest
point.
production car of its time.
Yeah.
And just again, another sort of British, darling of the British Roadster. There was obviously the fixed heads and things as well. But
This
in
is
terms of
some
the
real
Roadster,
old money shit.
Cute little
They're
pinch
not
face,
crazy
really
expensive though.
I know, but you look rich.
Yes.
Yeah,
Drive one of
exactly.
these and you look
and
rich.
every time you see one, it's just got such presence.
Yeah.
Like that dropping tail on the back. I love the way you can almost see the running board that we still have sort of evolving into that sort of high dropping wing. Big long bonnet. I love the way the headlights are large and close together to give it that really cute face. And like you say,
These are
fastest
so
production
cool.
Roadster of its time.
Sound great.
I've never driven one. I'd
The
love
hooked A
to.
pillars around the side. They've got such character. So
We
Yeah.
filmed
I
one
think-
for Haggerty, and Parker Kligerman, who's a NASCAR driver, he drove it all day, and he's like, I want to buy one of these so bad. He fell in love with the car. It was like a fall day at Road America,
Yeah.
and they sound great, and they look great,
Yeah.
and it's a very sweet car.
Yeah.
That's
I'm into that. I'm definitely into that. That one works. My next one is a Morgan.
Okay.
Aero Super Sports. Targa roof, not technically a Roadster, but I think a Targa roof counts.
That counts, yeah.
And it's based on a convertible. They added the roof later. I got to drive Charles Morgan's Aero Super Sports. I don't know what year it was, maybe 2015.
Black and tan one, was
Yeah,
it?
black tan.
yeah.
And I have never felt cooler driving anything.
Yeah.
I mean, this was some like great Gatsby.
Yeah.
The view out of that windshield, the
Yeah.
pinched windshield with the three wipers, the turned aluminum dash,
Yeah.
and then the pontoon fenders, but with the BMW V8, the side pipe coming right out under your ear.
Some soundtrack, wasn't it?
Just glug 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 glug. I mean, just the best.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever had
Number 6 on my list. To
a
be honest
more
with you.
enveloping. You could be going any speed. You don't
Yeah.
have to go. You could be going slow. You could be going fast. It doesn't
Yeah.
fucking matter.
Yeah.
You are the king of the
Yeah.
universe in
Yeah.
this car.
Is this the car Tony Hawk
Big.
drove on a gumball thing?
That's
Like
right.
long
He
ago,
did.
right?
It
wasn't a
I remember that was
gumball.
my
Yeah,
first
that's
exposure to one. I was like, "What
Yeah.
is
That's
Might have
that?"
even been
That's
It
right.
might have even been the same car.
No, he drove a white one.
He did.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Might have been a coupe actually. That one.
Oh, it might have been.
Yeah, no, it was either way. It looked very similar.
Yeah.
yeah.
Similar
These
finish.
and plus Targa roof. Yes,
That's it.
all
That
day.
had a boot on it. So it was our first sort of proper tourer on the aero range. The Aero Max, the coupe before it, had quite a large rear luggage space, but
Mm-hmm.
you accessed it through 2 tiny butterfly windows. So you kind of had to post all of your items in
You
one
just
by
had to
one.
put
rather
canned
than-
goods in
Yeah,
there,
exactly.
one at a time.
You kind of pack the car rather than
Yeah.
pack a bag before you go.
Yeah.
But
There
that
was
had
a-
a big luggage space in the back of that, actually.
There was about a 2-year period where these were affordable, used,
Yeah.
and they're not
Yeah,
anymore.
I don't know
Now,
I don't know how many are in the States. It was the last car to come to the States as well.
single
Last
digits.
four-wheeler.
Single digits.
Yeah, I bet it is.
mean,
And Jeff
That's-
Dunham, the comedian, had one. I
Right.
think he sold it. That was the one that was on Jay Leno's garage. Was Jeff
That's
Dunham's
it.
car?
Yeah.
But the last one I sold started with a 3.
Jesus.
Yeah. For a long time, under 150K, you could have gotten one. Now, forget it, and probably never again.
Yeah, no. Well, as soon as
God
we stopped
damn,
it.
is that great?
Yeah, when we discontinued that N62 V8, and it was the last V8 Morgan
Yeah.
fitted, the demand for them went nuts, really. The
Yeah.
last 8 cars we did like this GTR special thing, this GT special thing with a load of canards and hot-looking bits on it. They went nuts, and they're still fetching
There's-
really good money now.
Yeah, there's not a lot of retro future better than that. That's,
Yeah, right.
that's about as good as
Yeah,
that
that's
gets.
cool. Retro futurism. Yeah, that's
well,
kind
that's
of
what what America did
yeah.
in like the '90s.
Yeah.
The J Mays, the new Beetle,
That's
the
it.
Mini, the Frank Stevenson stuff, the
Yeah.
Thunderbird.
Yeah.
We had a big period of retro future.
Yeah,
but this
sure.
is the king of all of it.
Had mini headlights on the front.
It
of that,
did have
just
mini.
on the-
headlights. Originally had Beetle headlights, and then they
right, yeah.
switched.
And that's where we had this reputation of being bug-eyed. They had to get the air into the front with this big cow catcher.
Yeah.
And then they couldn't find any round headlights to fit, apart from the mini ones, the beta ones. They had to put them on the opposite sides to make them fit on the panels. And
Yeah, yeah.
That was a good example why designers are important.
Yeah. The mini lights are a lot better.
They're a lot better.
Once
Yeah.
the mini came out,
Yeah.
so I was like, "Ooh, get
Yeah,
those,
yeah.
get those!"
Full round lights. Yeah.
I mean, look, Lamborghini was using Nissan headlights and the Diablos. I
Yeah.
mean, there's all kinds of shit that gets stuck
Yeah.
around. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is my jam, though. All right, Zach, next.
Triumph TR6. I've seen one in town. This guy drives a British Racing Green one, and it's always smokes a little bit. But I just think
Of course it does.
it does a little bit. But I don't know, man. Especially from the rear, I got to find a photo. But they just have like this little lip in the back or a little tail. that flips up. And I just think it's like really subtle, but when you see them in person, they look a lot more aggressive than this. And I just think they're really cool cars. They sound good. It's a kind of a classic thing.
You know what I like about these? Tall tires on a little car.
Yeah.
You know, like the Healy 3000s, and they all have these tiny little tires.
Yeah.
And then these have pretty tall tires.
yeah.
And something really works about that.
They look fun to drive, don't
Yeah.
they? It's like they float on the rubber. And
Yeah.
I love the way the bonnet is sort of cowled over the top of the headlights.
And here, look at the let me go to the
Rear three-quarter.
or this. Like, I just love this little
That
angle.
taillight design
These
was
taillights
thought
suck.
of fucking at the pub later.
Yeah.
Mates,
What's gonna
we
fit?
didn't put taillights on it. Quick, what do we got?
What have we got?
There we go. You're just like, I just love this bow line, and I like
Yeah.
the little angles on this. It's like a really small Chrysler Fury from like 57.
Yeah, or like a Aston Vantage, 70s Aston
Yeah.
had that
It's
kind
just
of same
car
vibe.
shaped, isn't it? That 2-box proportion. It's just
Car shaped.
It's just car shaped, isn't it? It's, if you were going to draw a car, that's
That's what it is. That's so insulting. What inspired you? Car.
car, right? Yeah.
They said, draw a car today, boys.
Mega.
Wow, to go back to the fucking Aero
Right.
Super Sports after that, it's like, future. All right, what else you got?
Okay, got a new one or an older one. I'll go stay with the classics then. I've got one on my list, which is the AC Ace.
Oh.
So pre-Cobra.
Pre-Cobra.
Yeah.
6-cylinder.
1952 or 3, something like that. 6-cylinder. Not the fastest car at the time, obviously, but such a beautiful car. Such a head turner.
Yeah.
Like that long bonnet again with long separate sort of bug-eyed on the front of the wings. No shut lines on the side of the car. Just the door, and that's it. You know, it's
It's one panel. It's
just
headlight
one
to
panel
door is
all the way
one
through.
panel. Yeah.
Obviously, a sort of beautiful Coke bottle proportion. Just such a lovely car to look at. You can imagine seeing one of those at the time. And all, again, made by hand. So, all English wheeled. And when you think of that being rolled through the English wheel to give it the shape. I love the way the scuttle comes off the bonnet, and so the bonnet panel continues into the interior, so it makes the bonnet look even longer.
True.
Oh yeah, the fender that becomes
it just carries on into the
Right
interior
here.
as well through there. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's like body work inside the windshield.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
So
cool.
Inside, outside, kind
Sure.
of just one stops and the other one starts. But,
Yeah.
really pretty. 48
Yeah.
spoke wheels, big tyres again. Just a really pretty car, really, and nice. I thought relevant as well.
Yeah.
Today, maybe, it's not a Cobra, but
Yeah, I
pre
did a
the
video
Cobra
with
is
the
where it all
Asica,
started.
which was the coupe version
Oh, okay,
of it,
yeah, okay.
with a Bristol engine,
Yeah,
and it
okay.
drove nice.
Yeah,
it was
I think
pretty cool, actually.
There were some cool hard tops for them, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Actually, at the time as well, which looked quite.
Yeah, you could get a hard top on this,
Yeah.
but the Asica was the full, almost hatchback.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
lovely.
Yeah, cool.
I have a Cobra on my list. I have the AC Cobra.
Perfect. Yeah.
So, same thing, big
Yeah.
motor.
Yeah, there you go.
Not much else to say. Everybody knows what a Cobra is. I don't
Yeah.
need to go into
Well,
why.
you can see all the language, can't you? Start
Yeah.
Oh,
here
for
and
sure.
evolving into that. It's
But I like
just,
the Cobra mouth. I think is smaller, and the
Yeah.
fenders got bigger, which works a little. This reminds me
more
of
power of the rear wheels and
what is the late '50s Ferrari that has
Yeah.
a front end that looks, or the grill opening is so
It's
similar
like
to
a
this.
Ferrari, like 212,
Yes.
like really the
It's like
early
the first one.
Ferraris.
Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. The Cobra, I think
Yeah.
it all it went through puberty and then everything evened out.
Yeah.
This is like the shins are too big or something.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah.
Those are cool, though. Okay. Cobra, I'll skip because I put Cobra also. So, and we'll call that more or less the same thing.
Okay.
How about Aston Martin V12 Vantage Roadster?
Yeah.
2010 to 2012. Manual gearbox, 510 horsepower. Short, not the. Oh well, you got the modern one.
This
I was
one.
top right corner.
Yeah.
Top. I was talking about the first gen car. Yes.
Quite compact, wide,
Fucking great.
short wheelbase,
Short
great
wheelbase,
proportion.
monster power. Engine doesn't fit under the bonnet, so they had to make the bonnet taller.
Yeah, that side vent running into the crease on the
Yes.
shoulder.
This one was the S. We didn't get the V12 Vantage in Roadster in the U.S. That was Europe only. We only got the S Roadster, which had the dog leg first gear for the 7-speed.
Yeah,
You really want the 6-speed. The performance difference isn't there, and 6 gears is better than 7. But fuck yes all day.
Good shout.
Even with a V8, 4.7 V8, still great.
Yeah.
Could be a V8 Vantage Roadster or a V12 Vantage Roadster.
True. I'm gonna
Just
see-
the best.
Where's the rear?
Everything about that car is good and right.
Too many
Yep,
ads.
beautiful car. No
Yes.
doubt. No doubt.
Shazam. Zach?
Caterham.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got one
Got to
in
be a
particular?
Caterham on the list, doesn't there?
I just think. Well, I was
fun.
like, it's like there's this,
I don't like Caterham.
and there's Ariel, and I was like, well, I don't. The Ariel's fun, and the new one is much easier to drive than the last gen. I drove it on track, but this I prefer front engine cars, and I think for pure excitement,
Front engine, rear
and
wheel drive.
You're sitting on the
super
axle
light.
again, like they teach drift schools with it. I bet it's the most fun, super light. It's like it's a go-kart that you can drive on the street. And I think dynamically, I don't think there'd be anything on here that would be more exciting for me personally with what I like to do.
I reviewed one in the UK, and it was a 400R or 420R.
I was about to say, that's the last one I drove, the 420R. Was
really
it the
fast.
nutter bonkers thing?
Yeah, but I didn't like it very much.
No?
It felt like the front half of the car and the back half of the car were different cars.
Yeah.
Like the way the front took a bump and the way the rear took a bump were like completely different.
Is it AR in front and then a different suspension in the back or
Yeah,
something
and it
like
was
that?
like it might have been the Dion rear or
I mean,
something.
they've
like
got such a cult following, haven't they?
I get it.
I'd love to track one. I'd like to drive one on a racetrack.
Yeah.
Just to go back. Well, that's really
Exactly
coming
that.
to their
Yeah,
own.
Caterham Spec Series or something.
And there's plenty of people who swear by them, and I'm not saying they're all wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it shouldn't be on this list because they've been building these things for 1,000 years too.
Yeah.
And people still love them. And look at that guy. That guy in that picture for Top Gear seems like he's having a grand old time.
Getting wet in Wales and
Yeah. By the way, look at the rear view mirror setup they've got going on this thing. It's like they've really got some like alien eyes mirrors happening there.
it's where
but I
your
just
head
thought they
goes
were
when you
weird.
think of British Roadster, don't you? You think
Yes.
you do think
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
Good time.
All right, last one. Got
Last
one more.
one, is it? Two more, I think.
Oh, it was maybe two more.
maybe?
Sorry. Oh, I skipped because I had Cobra. Yeah.
Okay, so Lotus Elan, Series 1.
Series
All
one.
right, I have that too. So
Gordon Murray would agree with you.
Do you know what? It's perfect. In terms of fun to drive, it is the formula, isn't it? 600 kilograms or whatever they were. Tiny little sausage missile body. I don't know what you call it. It's just
Sausage missile is pretty good.
Sausage missile.
Also
We'll
a
go
great
with
metal
that.
band.
Yeah.
the early ones were
And then they had
1,500 pounds or something.
26R, like the race version, Cosworth
Yeah.
tuned with a little flared wheel arches on there, like 170 brake, 600 kilograms.
Yeah.
Really small, really compact, lightweight, fun to drive. Obviously, a huge commercial success for Lotus as well.
Yeah.
And, I think for me, it's hard for that not to be on the list. That's,
There's a couple of these around Los Angeles. We see
Oh,
them once
really?
in a while.
That's
Yeah,
cool
there's a
car,
really
yeah.
good, like a yellow one with like Panasport wheels on it, and looks
Yeah.
awesome. Very racy.
I think Jay Leno's got one as well, hasn't he?
Sure
I think
he does.
might. I
It's
think he
exactly-
might have one.
Anyone I've
Leno,
talked to
yeah.
that's owned one has regretted not owning it anymore.
Oh, that 26R. That's what's
That's
up.
it.
That's the
26
one
hours.
right
Less of
there.
those
Yeah.
built, but I think they were like 175 brake horsepower, like 600 kilograms.
Yeah, that looks like a good time.
Yeah,
Just-
inspired the Miata, which
Yeah,
is a
exactly.
fantastic car. So this is where that began.
You
Have you
Imagine how
seen
much
that?
fun that
Have
would
you
be.
seen that?
profile.
There's a kit you can buy that turns a Miata into
What, into an Elan, really?
It makes it look like it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's got sort of this fastback roof. It sort of reshapes the nose. I drove one, and the guy also did a Rotrex blower on the thing. It was fast as fuck. It was
good
really,
fun.
really cool.
Good fun.
It's also I was looking up TVR and
Whoa.
you can really see where this 500 got its design from.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really really close.
I'm a little embarrassed I don't have a TVR on my list. Do you have a TVR?
I do.
It was gonna be
It's
this
my last
one.
car, yeah.
Okay, what TVR do you have?
That was my last one.
Was it this one?
In fact, the first ever rear-wheel drive car I ever went in was a TVR Tuscan S.
Oh,
So
okay.
2007. Probably not the best car dynamically or aesthetically, but for me, I just love the theatre
Yeah.
of the TVR. Like the sort of the way the panels all flowed around the vehicle, the sort of endless curves. There's a bit of a
Yeah.
story behind that. The way the body tucked under and even the door shut lines, they didn't have shut lines. So the body side dived in. And that's because the edges of the fiberglass bodies were so poor. They just, instead of trying to dress them all, they
Just
just
hide it inside
hide
them.
them all.
Hide
So
it inside
all
them.
of the panel edges disappear. They all roll under or
That's
tuck into
so
the
funny.
side.
Don't show them the edges. Just find a way to.
And I love that. And I-
shit, now that you tell me that, I can't
Can you see
unsee
it?
that. Yeah, it's hilarious.
And I went to Blackpool factory a few times, and you just see piles of these bodies that it was quicker just to make another one than try and fix them. So it's just like a graveyard of these fiberglass,
90% fail rate on the bodies.
Just,
oh god,
I love the excitement of it. But you know,
that was the first rear-wheel drive
that's
car
the
you
one.
rode
4
in?
litre,
Wow.
4 litre, straight six, like 111 kilogram. Again, you're gonna have to do the conversion for me. 1,100 kilograms. 370 brake horsepower, just
That's
so
fast.
much fun. They sounded incredible, and they just had all of these quirks, like the rev counter went anti-clockwise.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
like lime green.
Yeah.
And to
Why?
open the doors,
Because-
like they hid the buttons under the mirrors or in the middle of the dash. And
Yeah, yeah.
I remember getting in it and not being able to get out because I just couldn't work out to turn the heater vent or something to open the door. But
just steep learning curve
just
on
the
that car.
noise, the theatre, the drama, and like I say, one of my first experiences with like a sports car, if you like. So
Oh, that's very fun. There's a
it's
guy
just
who's
stuck
got
with me.
2 TVRs. He's got a Tuscan and a Sagaris in
Oh,
Los
cool, yeah.
Angeles.
Sagaris is
Yeah,
even more bonkers.
Sagaris
wasn't it?
is batshit.
Vents in the
Yeah,
front.
that fucking rear window on that thing, the
the
Lexan.
exhaust pipes just stuck out sideways.
Look at the rear
That's
of
it,
the
look at the
Sagaris.
exhaust there.
I mean, that's just so aggressive.
Love it though. I
Absolutely
love
nuts.
the roof line so much.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And look, this crazy shit.
And it's got the wing is clear, which I love.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I like
that's it.
the headlights more than I do on the Tuscan. But I
I like
remember
the rear
when
wing. That's
Clarkson
cool.
drove the
I think,
Tuscan.
I think there's
that-
more exciting TVRs, but for my personal
Sure.
top
Oh,
five,
of course.
you know,
and that's the first rear-wheel drive car you rode in.
Exactly.
What a memory!
Like, what a
Holy
memory,
moly.
and it stuck with me forever. So,
Sure.
yeah. So yeah.
That's a very good one. Last on my list, Ariel Atom. It's just because it defined a whole range of cars that were previously thought of as not really being possible. Nobody for a long time it was assumed you needed body work.
Yeah.
Nobody would just like sell a car that doesn't have a body.
No.
And on top of that, the Top Gear film of this car was the thing that made me want to make videos about cars. When I saw that, I said, "This is the thing. This is the thing that I will be doing for as long as I can." And I drove one. It's not for me.
Which generation did you drive? Do you know?
I drove a 2. I drove
The 4.
I've heard. I mean,
very
I've heard
different.
I've heard
New
they've
one's much
gotten
better.
good, but still, I don't necessarily think it's for me.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, they are crazy and inspired a whole bunch of other cars with little to no bodywork.
Yeah.
And as far as open top British motoring, doesn't get much more open.
Yeah. Oh, I
That
totally agree.
is
Yeah,
accurate.
it's like a motorbike with 4 wheels, isn't
Crazy.
it? It's just
Insane.
nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy. Is there?
There is a bike.
Is there a 4 in America?
Yeah, that's the one that has the Civic Type R engine, I think.
Where
unless I'm getting my
where would
generations
I
wrong.
go to drive that?
We had it. I mean, we had to pay for shipping for a drive.
Where do they ship it to?
They're based, I think, in like Kentucky. The place that manufactures or assembles them
yeah.
is based in the South somewhere. So that's where they have them.
I got to figure out.
And their
where-
budget is small because they're
Yeah,
like,
obviously.
can you ship it? Because
Yeah.
so we paid for shipping
Yeah.
for the Nomad.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
I'd like to try the Nomad too. That's the off-road one.
That's it.
Yeah,
So the
which-
Nomad still had the supercharged engine, which I actually preferred, and then the fourth had the Civic Type R engine, which was nutty fast
Yeah.
and dynamically felt a little better. They changed a lot of things, but I just like the powertrain, the sensation of the supercharged more. But Di took me for a ride at Palmer in the fourth gen, and he learned to drift it, and that was nuts.
Well,
That was insane.
and that is the most dangerous racetrack probably in America. This racetrack is the best racetrack imaginable for filming. Enormous elevation, gorgeous tree foliage, but there are literally exposed
runoff.
rock wall.
Yeah.
No, there's no runoff. It's built into the side of a cliff,
Wow.
and you can hit the cliff.
What?
Like, it's just fucking nuts. It's so dangerous. I love it. I'm not shitting on it. I think it's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyone who wants to send me to Palmer to go film, I am in. But it's so. Yeah. Just,
Oh, wow, yeah,
Just
look at
show
that.
the cliff
like
picture.
bits of the
yeah, that
Nürburgring,
thing,
doesn't it?
I mean, look, you can hit
Oh,
like
wow.
cliff. It's so
It's great
amazing.
though. The elevation drops are wild,
Yeah.
especially on
Best-
full
best-
tires.
Where's this? Where
This
is
is
it?
in Massachusetts,
Massachusetts.
Western
Okay,
Massachusetts.
okay.
Gorgeous.
It's in New
Gorgeous.
England.
Yeah.
New England. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That would be a scary place to drive a car with no bodywork.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But it's one of the most beautiful places you could ever film a car video.
My final one is no joke. It's the Morgan three-wheeler.
Oh.
It really is, because I think it's just this. It's silly and it's disarming to people, and it, like you said about the other Morgans, it doesn't look like you're trying to advertise your wealth or your, the size of your dick or how fast you can go. It's very playful, and I really like that about it. And I think it is. It's like if you take a lot of the other bits of the Morgan driving experience, other than like the super sports, and you really distill it down and reduce that sauce, like this is kind of what it is.
That's what you're left with.
So it's one of the most unique experiences I've had.
Well, thanks both. That's pretty cool.
These are
two Morgans from
I loved this car
credit
too.
indeed, isn't it?
I
That's
just
cool.
love the Aero Super Sports more. I liked about the old three-wheeler, the old new three-wheeler. It was like flying a World War II aircraft.
Yeah.
With the sound of that thumping V-twin and the propeller steering wheel. I mean, all that shit.
Plus the engine's in front of the body,
It was
like
just
an airplane.
it was nuts. It felt like I was an old, like the Red Baron or something.
There was a famous brand ambassador for Morgan from like World War II time. That's how Morgan does influencers. Was a pilot called Sir Albert Ball, and he famously said, it's the closest thing to flying you can get on the road.
Dude, it really felt like that.
Yeah.
And my friend Alex Roy has one.
That's right.
And we drove it around New York City.
Yeah.
And you could literally park it anywhere.
Yeah.
And nobody gave a shit. You could leave it right in the middle of the road. Nobody cared.
Really?
I've never seen any other vehicle where you could put it wherever the fuck you wanted and nobody would do anything. We left it parked in the most illegal possible place for like hours. Nobody cared. It was amazing. It was the most people were just like, look at that. And they just walk away and go about their day.
An experience.
How do you even tow it? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Leave it.
Yeah, just walk away.
Put it in a bike rack? What is this thing?
Yeah. Did you have one more, John? I think did we skip that? Was it?
That was
TVR?
me, TVR.
Oh, TVR?
Yeah.
It's good.
Good list.
Good list.
15 good British cars.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's all of them.
Yeah, that's probably all.
We left off things like Sunbeam or stuff like that. There were a couple that we skipped.
Sunbeam's great unless you got a Cobra in the room.
Exactly.
Sunbeam is for people who can't afford a Cobra.
Yeah.
They are cool.
Yeah, we covered all the brands as well, didn't we? Not many Astons.
Yeah, we did. We got
DBR1 Aston was sort of there as maybe the race car.
Oh, yeah.
C-types, D-types, there's a few.
Sure.
There's a lot of
Yeah, I mean, there are
so
some good
many.
ones.
But that's a good list, I think.
A D-type may have been better than an E-type if we really were thinking about it, but,
That's a
still
good list.
Still a good list. We got a few on the Patreon. Let's get to those before you're good on time, John?
Yeah, I'm fine.
You got nowhere to be, right?
Nothing to do here.
Oh,
No,
great.
I'm
Perfect. You going up to Leno's after this? You dropping that thing off with Jay?
Dropping a car up there, and then
Cool.
I'm doing something with him tomorrow, and then back on a plane. I think I'm in the air more than I am on the ground. It's such
that's
a
a
flying
bummer.
visit, I know.
That's a bummer.
I
You should
know.
maybe take the fun. I'll make you a route to go the fun way to Jay's
Thank
if you're
you.
not
that
in a
would
hurry.
be cool. That would be cool. I enjoyed it this morning, just coming through, actually.
Well,
so,
you want to
yeah.
have a go on. We have mountains here. Most people don't know about that. Of course, if you want to ask questions of us or our guests, get involved, watch the live stream, get access to early merch drops, have an ad-free listening experience. Patreon.com/The Smoking Tire Podcast is where you do it. Michael Cosgrove says, if Morgan were to branch out into another internal combustion platform, what would he like to create? Wait, what is that? How does that question work? Branch out to another ICE meaning partner with a different powertrain company.
Different vehicle segment almost looks at like a different platform.
Yeah.
Really not sports. What else would we do? That's an interesting one, actually. There's a few things we think about in our sort of long-term strategy. And one of the questions is there a appetite or an opportunity for a really big capacity, like a 12 or something, or a big 6 or something, maybe edging into that supercar territory a bit? Would be interesting as like a last hurrah for the ICE engine before we all have to say goodbye to it. And we often wonder about that, Morgan have never really made a supercar, if you like. And so we do often naturally wonder about it, but I'm not sure what it looks like. But for me, like a 12-cylinder manual last big fire-breathing thing would be interesting to see, with a long bonnet, with louvered vents, and you can imagine something quite exciting there.
Yeah.
But interestingly, we quite...
Inline 12.
Yeah. yeah.
Two inline
sixes
sixes,
next to each
nose
other,
to tail. Yeah.
And the other thing we think about a little bit is what would a return to our sort of roots of a really small runabout look like? A really lightweight, very low capacity, small, revvy thing. That was also quite exciting for us. Maybe if Morgan ever entered slightly bigger volumes than we do today, would there be an audience for a lightweight, small, low-powered four-wheeler?
You could do a 4-cylinder motorcycle engine. You go the other way.
Or stick 2 more wheels on a Super 3 or something. Right. Yeah, exactly.
You're very close.
Something like that. For a different platform with a different combustion engine, there's that. And then obviously there's electrification for us, which we are kind of embracing. We've done a few prototypes, and they've been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Electric 3-wheelers. We just did one recently. You announced it, called the XP1. We're not going to build any. It was just to get a bit of training and a bit of knowledge into the business, something for the R&D guys to sort of cut their teeth on a little bit, if you like. And it was brilliant. Super 3, same sort of weight, same sort of power. Totally linear torquey acceleration. You hear the tyres all of a sudden because they're not drowned out, and you're still getting flies in the face, and it's still very visceral. And a world of a handmade, coach-built, experience-led electric car. I feel like Morgan can own that a little bit. So we're quite excited about that as well. So there's a few things in the mix.
Cool. Prashan, how much wood is used in the frame of modern Morgans these days? We covered the Super 3, 0. Just the cup holder coming up. How about in the plus 4 and 6? What kind of wood is left in there?
0 in the Super 3, more than ever in a 4 and 6. We use
more than ever?
We use more wood now in a plus 4 and a plus 6 body than we ever have. So
Why?
we also use more metal. But we've got the fully aluminium chassis now. It's a sort of bonded, riveted aluminium chassis. But it's quite sort of flat panels. So to come from that boxy shape to the curvy body, we have to connect it with a lot more intricate wood, which has added a lot more to it. So that looks like a steel ladder frame chassis body frame there. Oh no, it is a CX. More wood than we ever have before, actually, is the answer to that question. And like I say, it's something we really lean into. It's lightweight. It's low tooling for us. So the chassis you see there, our CX platform, that carries, the same chassis, carries either the 4-cylinder or the 6-cylinder, manual or auto, wide body or narrow body, left-hand drive or right-hand drive.
Wow.
So it's kind of the case that the chassis hits the ground, we pick up the build ticket, and then it's the wooden frame that defines the car we put on top of it. And it gives us that much flexibility to change volumes to suit demand.
Yeah.
And, if something doesn't quite fit, guy pops up from the wood shop and just shaves a bit off, and then we put the aluminium on top of that, and it's just such a nice way of working.
Yeah.
Like I say, good at absorbing vibrations and
less than
noise
ever and more than ever.
So more than ever on the 4-wheelers, and then nothing in the Super 3. But
it's ash.
Ashwood, yeah, it is ashwood.
Do you guys have a forest?
Yeah, we do. It's all sort of sustainably grown, and then we have it sat for a long period of time, just acclimatizing, so you don't take it out of a warm, dry environment, get it wet, and it just moves. And we get cars coming back in from the 50s and 60s to be rebodied, where the steel bodywork's all disappeared and the wood's still there.
That's funny.
We dip it in a big pot of fence protector, and it's it's all ashwood, sourced in England. It's a good wood for it. It grows very fast, so you don't have lots of knots and distortion, which means wood can move. It's a very stable wood. It's a hard wood, but it's very lightweight, and it's sustainable. So I'm going to keep on coach building for the short term.
Yeah.
Right, so.
And is there a use of the wood scrap?
Yeah.
Is it what happens to what gets cut off?
Mainly in our log burners at home. So most of us in Morgan don't really pay fuel bills. We just take home the scraps.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
All the pizza in my belly says, does the Plus 8 GTR have any chance of a U.S. market release? Well, that car's not even being produced anymore, is it?
It's not being produced anymore. That was like a last of the V8 celebration. There is cars in the US though, so a few of them or one maybe or a couple
show
got
and display
over here on like a show and display type exemption. Certainly at least
Plus
at least
GTR
one in the US.
And that's a road car. That's not a track day car. That's a road
car.
God damn, does that look good?
Yeah.
And what was
I'll
cool
take
about
all
that
of
car is
those.
everything was made by aluminium. So that front sort of splitter on the lower chin,
Yeah.
all aluminium, beaten by hand. I mean,
That's
probably
cool.
not a great idea being handwork metal that close to the ground, but everything on that car was handmade aluminium.
Damn, that looks good though.
Yeah.
And ferocious, the noise
Yeah.
it made. It had these straight tailpipes out the back. They were like white. White,
The
like,
white tailpipe is a good
cannon
move.
pipes out
That's
the
an
back.
old school vibe. I like that.
And they would spit flames.
Oh, look at the interior too. Go down one, Zach. Look at the carbon
tillet
seats.
They're really good seats, actually. Really, the D5 low or B5 low line tillets. They're really nice seats. They are.
Yeah, that's pretty rad.
But yeah, that was inspired by that car. So, you know, a lot of early prototype racing plus 8s, always painted in blue. And there's a lot of history and story to be told there for the competition plus 8s.
Show and display for sure, but that's awesome.
Yeah,
last one. Gunnar Ray, is Morgan using or considering 3D printing or other additive manufacturing, either in prototyping or production?
Yeah, great question. We do actually a lot more than ever. We've just got a big 3D printer in now, which is with a massive bed size, like 1.5 meters, so you can print some really big stuff out. At the moment, we don't use it in production, but we do use it in manufacturing. So whether it's like little prototype parts for checking things, or we often make little fixtures and jigs, and working with the guys that are, you know, hand making these cars, if they can have a little fixture or a little tool that makes their job easier, we can print one out for them. That's an interesting picture. Sorry, just change the subject. That's a wakeboarding. That was a legitimate life challenge that I had. My wife and I do a lot of wakeboarding, and for some reason I brought a Super 3 home for the weekend, and I was like, oh, cock, I was going wakeboarding tomorrow. What am I going to do?
Pretty good idea.
And I strapped him to the side.
It'd be good for us in California for the surfboards too. Yeah. It's like the side racks that the things that people put on their bicycles to carry surfboards.
So, that wasn't staged. That was a legitimate life need. That one.
That's awesome. So yes, 3D printing is a yes.
So yeah, we do. We use it a lot for that. And to be honest, we're asking a few questions now about, you know, if we have to do a certain component, we're only building 50 cars or something. Does it make sense to put down a big metal injection molded tool or get something shipped in from elsewhere when we could print 50 off in one go and be done with it? And actually, you know, Morgans last on the road for such a long period of time. I think 90% of all Morgans ever are still on the road. So the back to ground is, you know, it doesn't really happen.
Yeah.
So actually, there's a case for low energy manufacture, 3D printed parts, maybe for some small areas. So maybe.
Do you think those parts, I mean, you're not necessarily in manufacturing, but like Morgan's 12 people. So do you think that that 3D printed stuff can handle the rigors of being handled
in its place, right? There's so many little bits and brackets in a car doing all sorts of stuff.
Right.
You know, in the right place, if it's the right material for the job and there's a story to be told, you know, we're definitely interested in it. So
can you 3D print wood yet using like wood pulp?
You can do like biocomposites, like wood fiber in organic resin.
Yeah,
so you could actually have wooden panels on a Morgan.
You could actually make like a bare wood thing. That could be kind of rad.
So we're thinking about some of that. I think
that'd be a good time
there.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, thanks for stopping by, John.
No, thank you.
I appreciate you coming in. That was really, really interesting. For those of you out there, if you got a list of your own favorite British Roadsters, leave that in the comments. Thank you to our patrons for such great questions. I'll make you a little drive route over to Leno's place if you want to have fun on the way.
Awesome.
If you've got that Super 3, you should really enjoy it and not just go on the freeway. That stinks. And do we have another show this week? We do. We have a show at the end of the week, right? The Pro Driver show, maybe, is end of this week.
I think so.
For the patrons, we'll have a special bonus show for you at the end of this week, and then I'm going to Las Vegas to drive McLarens 750, and I got that G-Wagon I'm taking. It's kind of wasteful, but you know,
that's the G-Wagon experience.
It's the wastefulness. Yeah, whatever. I'm driving a G-Wagon in Vegas, so fuck you.
To drive a supercar.
This is how that works. Yes, excellent. Jon Wells, live in studio. Appreciate it, bro.
Thank you.
See you guys later. Bye.